Silent Hill F. Nobody knows what the F stands for, but legend says it stands for frame rate. But we're going to find out, Alex, because I played a lot of Silent Hill F at Gamescom, so much so that I felt the need to talk about it in this video today. So welcome to my video.
Thank you there, John. I also was going to make a joke about I have no idea what the F stands for, but he took it right out from underneath me. In this case, though, I'm just happy to see a UE5 game that looks pretty slick and running pretty well. Right there, John?
Absolutely. So first of all, this was a unique Gamescom appointment, unlike any I've ever had before. They actually asked us to take upwards of 3 hours to play this demo. And usually I'm like, it's a lot of time. But the schedule was so packed, I decided I was going to pump in there and do it. So I opted for it and went into their business booth. They take you into this back room where they've got several stations set up with the game. And they basically just let you loose with Silent Hill F for like 3 hours.
My goodness.
They said there was an endpoint. I didn't reach that endpoint, but I did play for a long time. And today we're going to talk about both my PC experience, which is what I played on, as well as PlayStation 5, because I also saw it on that system, and what the heck the game is in general. So
Right. And based upon the footage you've been given here from the developer, John, what platform would you say we're looking at here?
So they did not specify what this B-roll was from. I did not capture my own, but to me this looks like what I saw with the PlayStation 5 version. It could be PS5 Pro as well, but I will say that I briefly saw the PlayStation 5 version running. Not briefly, a good 20 minutes, and it was a nice smooth 60 frames per second, and this was running on a base PlayStation 5 at the show.
Right.
And of course the cutscenes are 30, which is also true, I noticed, on PC, interestingly enough. But I didn't mind because they have the motion blur shutter speed dialed in really well during the cutscenes in a way that makes them look somehow just awesome. It's hard to explain, but they look really good when they play back. But the game itself runs at 60 on the console.
Right.
And the reason, so I also played on PC, and like I said, my initial PC reactions weren't great, but they had it running at native 4K with everything cranked up, and I'm not sure what the PC was, but I actually just went in there and switched to DLSS quality mode, and that fixed it, and it was back to like lock 60 on PC as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's a demo thing. Sometimes developers put games up to far too high resolutions. I saw Outer Worlds 2 running on a PC, and it was running at what appeared to be native 4K and quite poorly. So there are good ways to do demos, and there's there's better ways to do them.
Exactly. But in this case, running in both cases, I gotta say, Alex, I was astounded by what I saw visually speaking, because this is an Unreal Engine 5 game, but it looks so clean. It's remarkably stable. It doesn't have the typical splotchiness and the sort of like temporal noise that we're so accustomed to with UE5 games. Edges were super sharp in both cases. The performance stable, stutters 0. Everything about it just like looked and ran so well that you almost wouldn't guess that it's a UE5 game, but you can tell once you look closely, because the game really leverages that indirect lighting.
True.
Made possible with Lumen, which it is, from what I could tell, just software Lumen currently.
In this footage as well, right here, you can see there's a couple points, like there's these scarecrow-looking things when they're on the farm fields, and their reflections appear to just be handled by SSR. So I think that lends credence to what you saw there subjectively when you were seeing the demo.
Exactly. And on PC, I could see the SDF reflections mixed with SSR as well. So typical software Lumen. But you know what? Honestly, overall, the subtle lighting was just excellent. And I really liked the way this looks. The mood, the fog, everything about it feels just really good. And that's the thing about this game, is it's just weird, and I like that in a good way, right? So Silent Hill kind of became this thing where, like, for a while it felt like the first 4 games in the series all kind of were their own thing to some degree, building on some of the similar ideas, but they kind of went in their own weird directions. But then after that, it felt like the series just kind of kept trying to retread the greatest hits, do it again.
Right.
And that didn't always work. Silent Hill 2 Remake, that worked because it was a remake and they actually expanded on it. This game almost doesn't feel like Silent Hill, yet it does. it has its own really unique vibe. Like, you still have the town, though this time it's a small Japanese village. You still got the more, like, quote-unquote dungeons where you're exploring spaces, figuring out how to proceed. So, like, the core elements of like, Silent Hill progression are there. There's the combat and everything. And then, of course, everything's bookended with story sequences. But just the mood, atmosphere, storytelling, it's very unusual in a way that I found very compelling, and I just wanted to keep seeing what was going to happen next, and that was captivating, and surprising in a good way.
Yeah, the one thing, like, you can definitely see that in media surrounding Silent Hill, everyone returning to the same, for example, monsters and monster designs over basically after the second or third game. And here, since it's an entirely new setting, everything is actually very new, and whatever the background story is behind this game, I have no idea, John. I wasn't playing it. It definitely is leveraging the horror elements in a new way. I mean, the enemy designs look disgustingly creepy here.
Indeed. And yeah, so like the game opens with this, like, your character having an argument with her father and essentially leaves to go see her friend in town, but then notices that the town itself is rather unusually empty and foggy, and she eventually makes it to her destination and meets them, but everybody's just kind of weird, if you will. Like, the behavior is very strange. There's this thing that you don't know really what's exactly happening, and then all of a sudden the strange crimson-like growth starts to creep into the scene and, like, almost disgustingly comes up through the pores of one of her friends, completely Jesus. like clogging them, choking them to death, and then you essentially have to run from it, and then that kind of kicks off the experience from there.
What a disastrous way to start a game.
You're exploring the town, and then you eventually end up in this almost like world of temples where it's like full of water and strange pathways and puzzles before ending up out in the town again. And you're just kind of, I don't know, I really want to see where this goes, because there was a lot to see and do within this space. I think what probably makes this game feel the most different, though, is the combat system. And there's a couple things going on with this. So, first of all, on the face of it, it kind of uses a Souls-like setup, right, where you have the, lock onto enemy, R1, R2, dodge, parry kind of mechanics. But as the director, I think, pointed out, this sort of thing existed before Souls was really a thing, right? And the rest of the game does not follow that mold at all. But it is still fundamentally a little more action-y than the usual Silent Hill, I would say, which I think turned some people off. But I actually thought it worked fairly well, and in fact, one of the key features that made it work well is something I usually find annoying in games, and that's breakable weapons. You can, of course, repair the weapons, but if you let them break all the way, they disappear from your inventory, and you can be left with no weapons at all.
Right, yeah.
And I thought that was cool, because it definitely ratcheted up the tension. Like in that field with the scarecrows, there's this part where you have to pull out these things, and if you don't pull the right one, they come alive and start attacking you. And awesome. I eventually destroyed all my weapons, and I was like, well, shoot, and ended up herding enemies around trying to escape and run to the next scarecrow to pull the thing out as fast as I could. And it became like a game of cat and mouse in the fields.
That's awesome.
Which was, it was all right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's really interesting to see, and it's hard to gauge, because this was more than just a demo, but there's still so much I feel I haven't seen.
Yeah. I'm actually very curious about some of the technical properties here. Looking at the cutscenes, they're actually extremely well done.
Right?
Something, yeah, which you wouldn't expect, I would say, from if it was just trying to ape the Souls-like genre, like it maybe has been falsely accused of. Because honestly, those games, the storytelling is not necessarily driven through the cutscenes. It's driven through kind of world interactions.
And I mean, the structure is Silent Hill,
yeah,
right? Fundamentally. So it does still follow that structure, just with a different sort of combat system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also there's some pretty cool things. I mean, it wouldn't be a Silent Hill game maybe without fog, but the fog rendering in Silent Hill 2 was really, really well done. And I'm very curious to see if this is a similar situation to that one, where it seems like semi-volumetric in front of you. and it's almost ever present. I can't even really think of any times where it does disappear in the remake. But here, it actually really confuses you when you're walking along. Like, I think I would get lost rather often here.
There is a map, thankfully, but yeah, it could be a little bit confusing. But I mean, right now, without going into too much depth, something I want to do with the full game, it really just is a case of, it seems like they're shipping a very technically solid UE5 game without the usual caveats that we've been facing over and over again, right?
All right.
Where it runs well, it looks really good, and it's free of the typical noise and artifacts that we associate with this engine, especially on PC with DLSS, where it was just like pin sharp image quality without any sort of, or like absolute minimal ghosting or any sort of like artifacts like that. It just felt remarkably solid in a way that I usually don't see with UE5 games.
That is excellent.
So, and this is a collaboration between Konami and a developer known as NeoBards. And this is their first project like this in this vein, and I gotta say, I think they did an excellent job so far.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the footage, the quality of animation and visuals is really top notch. I'm almost curious to wonder why they were chosen of all studios out there. I could have, like with Bloober Team, I really understood it, at least because the genre and the, I would say, quality of visuals their games had before, but this almost feels like it's coming out of nowhere.
I agree. It's very, very strange, and it's a Taiwanese development studio, by the way. Cool. So it's really interesting to see. But without a doubt, though, they did bring a very different feeling to it. Like, the Japanese setting is quite unlike any other Silent Hill game, but it also doesn't just feel like, Fatal Frame or anything either. Like, it has its own vibe. I guess if I had to make any comparison, the closest thing it reminds me of is something like the Siren series. But gameplay wise, it's very different. Like, Siren was always a very strange, completely unique thing. Looks like NeoBards also did the Dead Rising remaster for Capcom. Interesting.
Well,
the DRDR.
Yeah, that okay. I mean, slightly horror genre, but also extremely different game. So who knows?
Okay, but anyway, I think that's kind of it for now. I just wanted to talk about it in a preview sense because it really did pique my interest, and I had a lot of fun playing it. And yeah. I genuinely, I was almost like in this daze where I'm just like in this room tucked away in the middle of a very busy Gamescom with these headphones on. It just felt like all of that vanished during those 3 hours, and I was sucked into this strange new world.
I think it's impressive that and shows the confidence that they have with the title, that they would already invite press to play for such long, uninterrupted periods of time. Usually games don't offer that level of flexibility. I mean, there's been some stuff very close to launch we've seen before. I think there was and
this is fairly close to launch too, by the way.
Yeah,
so
yeah, but even then, I'm impressed that the confidence that.
And I would say I don't think this is a game that would show that well if you could only play it for like 15 minutes because it's too slow of a burn. Right? If you gave this demo to anybody else, they would just end up wandering around, not sure where to go in the city, and then the demo would end, and then they'd be like, "What am I doing?" Right? Like, you need that. The whole thing is that you need to be able to wander around, not knowing where to go, and get lost in that fog to really start to feel the mood they're going for.
Right.
So, I think that's super important, and I will definitely be checking this out when it arrives.
I can't wait to see your video on it when it does come out. I think it's also going to be, depending upon the release date, I should hopefully be able to make a PC version about this game.
Oh, excellent. Well, anyway, thanks to everyone for watching, and thanks for joining me, Alex.
Of course.
And we'll see you next time.